to the Dee Time Love show, and today you join me for a local drive, and I thought I'd be gathering my thoughts in regards to the decline of watchmakers in the UK. But I do a lot of my analytical thinking, guys, when I do a drive. I tend to go for just drives, cruising around, enjoying the UK. I mean, the UK has a lot to offer, despite a little bad press in regards to the UK. It has a lot to offer, but I have to say, in recent years, watchmaking has been in major decline. Now, as you can see here, guys, we're at Northwood. This is a head office of the military in the UK. This is Northwood headquarters of a military base in the UK. And just changing subject here, since we are going for a bit of a drive, and I'll get into the subject matter. Now you can see like the barbed wire here, guys. This is where I don't really know exactly what goes on here because the UK is not really known for its military might, I have to say. But this is where it's based, in between these beautiful houses on the left, and as you can see, very affluent area. This is Oxley, heading on to Northwood, which is a place in London. So, you know, when you think of London, you don't necessarily think of areas like this in London, I have to say. Very, very affluent area here, guys, I have to say, in Northwood, Oxley Woods. I think it's a borough of Hillingdon, London Borough of Hillingdon. We're just coming up to the London Borough of Hillingdon, as you can see here, guys. Very nice indeed. What does it say there? Large city winner, Britain in bloom, whatever that means. And where we're hit with ULEZ most of the time. But anyway, going back to the watchmaking industry, I remember a time, if you go back 10, 15 years ago, there was a watchmaker in every town, every city, but they are in major decline at the moment, guys. And that's mainly down to the fact that watchmakers, they're retiring now, and there's no apprentices coming through to replace them. And there are many factors to consider. I was really thinking about this, why there's such a decline, because it's not the same when it comes to car mechanics or, you know, any other sort of similar trades, even goldsmiths and so on. There's always people coming through the trade. But in watchmaking, you know, if you go back into the 70s with the quartz crisis, and then you go into the 20th century, evolving technologies, the smartwatch, the cost of watches being a lot cheaper. So now there's a lot of watch brands out there that can offer you watches that are very cost effective, and there's very much a throwaway culture. So what I mean by throwaway culture, people buy an item and then they throw it away. As in the past, in the golden age, the golden era of watchmaking, you know, buying a mechanical timepiece was something very special, an heirloom, something that you pass down to a family member. That tradition is really dying out. But there is some hope. It's not all doom and gloom. But what I notice, especially in the UK, and the reason why I'm doing this video, I specialise, one of the sectors I specialise in my recruitment agency is the watchmaking industry. And we're really struggling to find qualified watchmakers now for our clients. And the UK has a major skills gap, guys, at the moment. And what I mean by that is, if I was to go back 5-6 years ago, on Reed, Indeed, Total Jobs, there would be about 10 to 20,000 watchmakers on the job boards. Now we're looking at hundreds. And when you have a lot of emerging independent watch brands in the UK, recruiting for watch technicians, watch assembly technicians, watch services makers, you got a problem. Everybody's chasing the same candidates. But the problem is, I'm guilty of this myself, in the fact that when there was a slight turn in the UK, I started recruiting overseas. So I didn't do the skills gap issue in the UK any favours, in the fact that I was sending some of our best watchmakers out to the UAE and across Europe, and even back to Switzerland, for example. So we saw a massive decline of some of the top WASTEP certified watchmakers that qualified from the British School of Watchmaking and the British Horological Institute of Watchmaking. Now, it's a real big issue in the fact that we've seen such a big decline that I can get one watchmaker probably 10 interviews at the moment, which is a real issue for me. Second issue for me is that some of the watchmakers that are available in the UK, a lot of them are self-taught. Not a bad thing if you've been self-taught by a good watchmaker, but people just saying they're watchmakers, we get them in to do a bench test and they absolutely butcher the watch, for example. It comes in working, we give it to them, a bench test, and guess what? The watch is not working. So gone are the good old days where every town, every village would have a watchmaker. You walk in, you can smell the oil, the brass, like a goldsmith's, but, you know, environment. Those days have gone. There's a lot of new pop-up watchmaking places where they do little odd bits here and there, but they're not qualified to even tie your shoelace, to be honest with you. So yeah, they may get away with doing a battery change, but they'll absolutely destroy your Rolex, for example. Now there are watchmakers out there, good independent watchmakers. I've placed a number of good watchmakers at BQ Watches. They've got a great service centre, if you didn't know already, and also a good friend of mine, Alex Photi, at Perpetual Time. But what you'll find is at the moment, the very good watchmakers, they're absolutely swamped with work. So there's big waiting times, maybe 2 to 3 weeks, even months, to get your watch serviced. And the brands are guilty of making the industry even more difficult now, in the fact that it's very difficult to get parts. So for example, you know, a independent watchmaker for Amiga or even Tag Heuer, for example, would need to kit out their workshop. Could cost them £35,000 to have the tools to service those watches from those certain brands. And even then, it's very difficult to get the customers, the clients, for example. So it's become a very much, oh, be careful, cat. The black cat, I don't know if that's bad luck. I don't want to be superstitious, since I am talking about watchmaking here. But anyway, going back to the subject matter in hand, you know, it's a dying trade, for example. It is a dying trade. And what I mean by that is people don't wake up every day deciding they want to become a watchmaker. Although there is a big community in the UK, there's less and less demand for it, which is, for me, a major issue, as I've tailored part of my business into the sector. It was very niche. I was a specialist in the area, and there are mitigating circumstances that have made my situation worse. The economy, people are not buying as many watches anymore, war-stricken environment across the globe, inflation, just the cost of living in general has been quite high. But in terms of the luxury sector in the UK, it's always been quite lucrative. You know, people are still buying watches, don't get me wrong, people are still buying luxury cars. So there is a market for it. But what I'm finding is the demand of my business has been huge, because I have people screaming down the phone, Dee, I need this, I need that. They're just not out there anymore. So this is really a video for me, not really a rant. I'm not one guy to rant about the economy or anything like that, but I'm seeing what I can do, thinking aloud, to try and bring people back into the hobby. So there is a major skills gap at the moment in the UK. What can we be doing to try and squash that gap and get people into watchmaking? And I want to say the positive side of watchmaking. One, it is a very lucrative business. There used to be a lot of watchmakers in the UK. That has changed. They've either gone overseas, but the biggest issue we've got, there's a lot of the elderly, the senior watchmakers, you know, they're hitting their, you know, 70s now, they're retiring. They're coming out of the game. But we don't have a new generation of watchmakers to replace them. This is the big issue for myself. So there are the British School of Watchmaking, the British Horological Institute. There's people that are going out to Switzerland and other countries to become WASTEP certified, but the demand is not very high. So colleges, universities are not going to emphasize trying to bring that type of diploma or course or qualification to their universities. So I'm trying to bring some limelight into watchmaking. Now the good news about watchmaking, if you're watching, if you didn't think it was maybe a good sector to go into, I would say you're wrong. Now I'll give you an example. There are people that are sitting on heirlooms and watches that are broken in their drawers, that the reason why they haven't got them fixed is because they don't have a local watchmaker to service them. There's no one local, for example. They probably have to send it off to another independent or to the watch manufacturer. Then you hear about the waiting times and so on, and then they get put off. It's just not something that's advertised in local newspapers or local media. Come and get your watch service, which is an issue. Emerging technologies with the smartwatch have got people back into the hobby, but we've gone into a culture now, buy and throw it away because it's cheap. But there are watches out there that are ready to be serviced and repaired. We just need someone to go into the hobby. So it starts with, I think, with the parenting. Get your kids a watch, get them into the hobby, the romance of watchmaking, because it is an art. It's not just like being a mechanic for me. Messing around with a mechanical watch which has no electronics is a beautiful thing indeed. It's a piece of history on the watch. Something very special indeed, guys. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that, you know, the watch industry is an isolated situation in the UK. I know this is obviously not the case in Switzerland because they've got a tradition of watchmaking and watch services over there. You know, but the UK used to be the bread and butter of watchmaking. Okay, it moved over to Switzerland, which is fair enough, but it very was much once upon a time the UK was the hub of watchmaking. Clocks, pocket watches, whatever you want to say about it, we are the home of watchmaking. It's only at a later date it was outsourced to Switzerland, which is now the luxury hub of watchmaking. But I have to say, over the last few years, it has seen a massive decline, which is very worrying for me, for someone that specializes in the industry. We placed over 1,000 people in the watch industry over the last few years. Okay, maybe only 20% of those were watchmakers. The rest were made up of sales associates, store managers. E-commerce is a big thing, but it's a shame that in the UK we don't have an abundance of qualified watchmakers. This is one thing that drew me close to Alex Photi at Perpetual Time. I was absolutely looking for WASTEP certified watchmakers. He's an independent, so I wouldn't be able to put him into any of my clients, but I would highly recommend it because he's a qualified watchmaker. I've provided qualified watchmakers at BQ Watches. They've got an amazing workshop, great service. When you think of BQ Watches, you think of sales, but they've got a big workshop there with qualified watchmakers. I think he's got over 5-6 watchmakers, and I've placed a few of them through myself. So they've been bench tests, they've been tested. They are absolutely qualified to service your watch, guys. Absolutely great setup. So for me at the moment, what I'm thinking to do is get in contact with some of the colleges, the universities, the BHI, to see what I can do to give them a bit of PR, a bit of publicity, and go out there and campaign to get more people to join these courses, for example. Now, at the moment, what I've been told by some of the college universities, they struggle to get full quota of students to take up these courses. So that is, alarm bells do start to ring when you hear things like this, guys. I have to say, the alarm bells do ring for me when you hear this. So it's not in demand, and what worries me at the moment is the fact that if they're not in demand, they may decide to cut those courses off altogether. So this is why I'm sorry, guys, I'm just in the local manor without even doxing myself, but just going for a local drive. Just look at these houses, absolutely stunning. I'm sure these guys have got a very good watch collection, I would say. But yeah, I'm thinking, leave your comments below. Let me know what you think I can be doing. Maybe I should go and visit, you know, these colleges, these universities that specialize in watchmaking courses, and see if we can get more people qualified in this industry sector. Because, put it this way, you know, look, when I place, let me give you an honest recap. When I place even a qualified watchmaker for an authorized dealer, I won't mention any names, they'll get the job, they'll sit in, and depending what the workshop is set up for, whether it's an Omega workshop or a Tag Heuer or a Rolex workshop, they will get an abundance of watches that come in through their customers, and they will pick and choose what they can service in-house and what they need to send out to the manufacturer, to the brands. And what they're saying to me is 75% of the watches they receive that may need a service, they will have to send back to the watch manufacturer. One, because of the parts, they can't get the parts. Two, they haven't got the correct workshop, so they can't order the parts. And three, if they were to even source the parts, that would be very difficult through their network and connection. It could take 3 to 2 months to get the watch service, and then off the back of that, they're swamped. They've got a backlog. You go to the independents as well, they're swamped. The demand is huge. That's what I'm saying. There is a massive market for it still. You know, you can make a very good living out of it. Look at Horologium. They're now based in Reading. They basically assemble nearly 60% of the British watch brands here in the UK. From Studio, Underdog, just to name a few, they assemble them there. So they really struggle. You know, we recruit for them as well. You know, they really struggle to find, you know, watch technicians. It's hard, but the good news is, you know, they're willing to train and develop, you know, people that have no experience. So they're being trained and developed in a very good environment, a professional environment, by people that know what they're doing, guys. And I think that is the biggest difference, I would say, depending where you're trained. So being self-taught is not ideal, to be honest. You need to be trained by someone who's qualified, for example. This is probably the solution. So I may talk to a few independent watchmakers that want to be, well, may consider bringing an apprentice in, someone they can train up from scratch, and so on. I think this is the key, being trained up by a big business, well-regarded business in the sector, by a qualified trainee, and get them doing what they need to do, and pay them on, you know, not minimal wage, but give them a half-decent salary to attract them in, and do like a key stage 1, 2 and 3, and then you feel confident when they're at key stage 3 of that training, they can basically go ahead and start doing the servicing without being micromanaged, for example. Another thing that we had a lot of an abundance of here in the UK were quality control experts. These are normally people that are qualified watchmakers that have assembled, serviced, and now they're used to just check the quality control side of the business. They're in major decline. I remember going back years ago when I was recruiting for these types of characters, there was an abundance of them. There was watchmakers that were coming to the end of their career that decided to go into quality control. That is now dead and buried, guys. Dead and buried. I mean, I look up on my database, I have about 11,000 of those guys. Guess what? They've either retired or they are working overseas. Guys, I just wanted to show you Harrow Viewpoints. This is where I get a lot of my analytical thinking done. Just park here. and look at the views, guys. You can oversee London, and guess what, guys, we are in London. This is London. This countryside, our London boroughs. This is what you call Greater London. So guys, I don't want to bore you so much. This is just a little drive today, and wanted to share my thoughts in regards to the concerns I have in regards to the state of the UK watch market. The skills gap that we have is a little alarming. However, it's not all doom and gloom, in the fact that the watch servicing industry in the UK is still an affluent sector. There is a lot of money to be made. So in saying that, due to the demand, why should we be sending the majority of our watches overseas now to be servicing? Because there is a backlog of servicing needed in the UK. Let's train and develop the people here in the UK to take on that workload. And yeah, it's a vibrant, interesting, let's get our children into the hobby, guys. Buy them a wristwatch, get them into the romance of horology, is my voice to you. My narrative is talk to your children, get them into the watch hobby. There's a lot worse things they can get into, guys, believe me. It's a great hobby, it's an exciting hobby. Forget about the smartwatches, forget about all this nonsense, this throw away culture. Because now the biggest objection I get when I'm talking to people is that, oh, why would I go and buy my son an expensive watch when I can buy him a cheap quartz watch that we can throw away in the bin and buy him a new one when it breaks? Well, how about buying something like an heirloom that you can pass down to the next generation, is what I would say to them, guys. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Take care. Leave your comments below if you've got any ideas of what we can do, guys, to try and bring more people into this sector. Leave your comments below, and I'll see you in the next video. Let's just zoom in here, guys, before I let you go, into this view. Look at that. Very nice. All right, guys, take care. See you in the next one.